Welcome to the next episode of the 2023 Overwatch League News Recap, and today we've got a lot of big stuff to talk about, ranging from roster news to retirements and much more. But before we get into all of the big time player stuff that's gone down this offseason, I actually wanted to start this video with the big news that has been hitting the headlines as of late, and that would be the Philadelphia Fusion, who are officially rebranding and relocating. For those who are maybe hearing about this for the first time, today on Friday, December 30th, the Philadelphia Fusion franchise made an announcement on their social media. In this post, they said they'll be rebranding and relocating to South Korea permanently, and they'll be changing their names from the Philadelphia Fusion to the Seoul Infernal. This is a pretty big shakeup for a variety of reasons in the Overwatch League. I mean, for starters, we've never had a team both relocate and rebrand before. We had the Eternal recently move over to Vegas, but nobody's changed their logo and their branding totally like this. This is a first, but it felt like this was bound to happen. The Fusion have been playing out of Korea the last 2 years, and it was pretty obvious they weren't going to be moving anytime soon, and that's where all their operations are already based. That's where Comcast owns their other team, T1, so it felt like it made the most sense to move in this direction. Why be based in Philadelphia when you're never there anyway? According to ownership, they believe it is in their best interest to just operate out of Seoul, Korea, as that's what's going to give them the best possible opportunity to succeed. They're going to have a brand new facility, well, I guess I should say a different facility. It's going to be at the same place that T1 operates, so all of their players and staff will have a lot of the great state-of-the-art stuff that they need to stay at the most competitive level possible. So in that aspect, I think this is a pretty logical move made by this franchise. It's going to be weird not calling them the Fusion now, but it seems like it was the right thing to do just from a competitive standpoint. Later on in the same announcement, it was said that the Infernal name and branding are going to reflect the team's new home in Seoul, so all of that's going to change, as well as the esports pedigree of their team and its sister team T1. And with the change, the team will unveil fresh logos, new jerseys, and more for current and future team members and fans. Management, ownership, and the roster, that's all going to stay the way it is. It's just that this team is rebranding now. It's as simple as that. Well, I guess it's not that simple, as it has kind of caused an uproar in this community, which makes a lot of sense. When it comes to what that branding will look like, we did get a bit of a preview on the Comcast post that did the announcement. They showed what the logo is going to look like, as well as the colorway. From a colorway perspective, it's not bad at all. The red makes sense. It goes good with Infernal. That's all good and well. I like the black. I like the other colors going on. It maybe feels a bit similar to Toronto and Atlanta, but there is a bit to differentiate them, and it could look pretty cool in terms of like skins and jerseys, so that's a plus. However, the other parts of the branding feel a bit unoriginal for a lot of people, and I would tend to agree. The logo itself gives off some heavy Vancouver Titans vibes. It looks cool, it really does, but it kind of already feels like it's been done by the Titans. It's just this one has some horns and it's colored red. Then, I mean, there's the other obvious thing, them being Seoul. That kind of makes it feel like a ripoff of Seoul Dynasty. It's already been done before. And Infernal sounds a bit like Eternal. So in 3 different aspects, this feels a little unoriginal. And I'd like to add on, while again, I like these new colorways, orange did make them extremely unique. I kind of wish they stayed with that. We've got a lot of red and a lot of black, but orange was more on the unique side, especially because the Shock changed to primary black. Like, we just didn't have a lot of that. I'm hoping some other team does rebrand to that instead. Otherwise, this league's gonna feel even less unique in terms of its branding and colors. Too much of the same thing. So yeah, I'd say the branding's going to raise a lot of eyebrows for some people. Some people might like it, but I get the feeling it will receive a lot of backlash at the same time. However, from their point of view, this just makes a lot of sense. They give some pretty reasonable explanations. And honestly, we needed another South Korea-based team. Let's just call it how it is. Korea is the heart of professional Overwatch. That's where a lot of the most famous players and champions have come from. That's where legends are born. That's where the best players are. It's just a simple fact. And we needed more representation for that country because of all they've done for us. And hey, as a traditional sports head, I actually find double city rivalries to be really fun. We have the New York versus New York going on in the NFL and the NBA and others and whatnot, but we have our own unique twist on it here in the Overwatch League, which I really appreciate. I think that we'll have some epic battles, as we have some battles for Seoul in the upcoming future in the APAC region. However, with this move comes a lot of disappointment from numerous fan bases, not just one. So let's go over that side of the coin as well, as their feelings are also very valid in this situation. At the heart of it, you have Philly fans. Whether you're supporting them from across the world or you're actually from Philadelphia, there's a lot of passionate Fusion fans fans out there that have been supporting this team since day one. They've been through it thick and thin, all of the ups and downs, and to see their team leave now without actually winning anything for them is just a huge gut punch. And honestly, I feel even worse for people who are from Philly, because Philadelphia is just a staple in the sports world, right? You never take away teams from that city. It just doesn't happen. They are so important in the history of sports. Like, I know not everyone gets along with people from Philly. They have a bad rep in some people's eyes, but no one can deny their passion and love for their sports teams. So this is a big oof. I've seen it all over social media. A lot of people are just absurdly disappointed they don't have their Fusion anymore, their Philly team. This was their everything, their very reason to support the Overwatch League. And without it, a lot of people are questioning if they want to even support the league moving forward. That's the type of impact that this type of decision has. Some people are going to stick around, especially those of you who maybe aren't from around the area. You may be able to overlook this, but not everyone, as this city, even if you aren't from it, as well as the branding, it hits home for a lot of us. They are one of the iconic franchises of this league. I know they've gotten a bunch of second places, and they've been made fun of throughout the years, but they're very important throughout the history of this league. Nobody can deny that. They've been here since the OG inaugural season, and they've had a lot of crazy ups and downs where they have been in the spotlight. From the Stage 2 playoffs and the grand finals to the amazing tournaments they had in 2020 and making the playoffs then. Carpe story, Alarm story, etc. It all is based within this one franchise, and now it kind of feels like it's being deleted from existence in a way. Obviously, not totally. The memories will always still be there. It's technically still that franchise, but without the name and the logo, it feels like something's off. It's almost like Carpe finally leaving this team was the dagger, the thing that made them not the Fusion anymore, you know? That's the type of vibe this gives. Without Carpe, there is officially no Fusion. Man, what an emotional moment. And it's not even just the Fusion fans and people from Philadelphia. I think other fan bases are going to be pretty upset about this too, especially the OG fans who have been around since the inaugural season, as well as anybody out there who maybe is a Seoul Dynasty fan. For some of you, this may feel like a major slap in the face, as you being from Seoul was the thing that made you unique. But now you kind of feel like you're maybe casted aside in a way, which is totally understandable. Another Seoul team? Really? There's a lot of different opinions and feelings that are very valid, by the way, that could be had in this situation. Everybody suffers and enjoys this in some way or another. I think it can be disappointing, but also really exciting at the same time. It's a very bittersweet moment for me. I'm going to miss the Fusion a lot because they are so important to the game's history, but it's also understandable why this move would happen, and I look forward to seeing the next chapter. So long to the Philadelphia Fusion. What a bittersweet moment this will be for a lot of us. This includes myself. I'm not a Philly fan, but I've seen their pain. I always rooted for them to finally win something, and it just sucks that they couldn't while they were called the Fusion. Let me know what you think about all of this down in the comments below, though. I'm sure it's going to spark a lot of interest and arguments, so give me all your opinions. That's enough about that, though. We got some other stuff to cover. Let's get into some roster news, and the first thing I wanted to cover, the most significant, would be on December 26th, when the San Francisco Shock, during their show match with the Dallas Fuel, announced their core 5 players for the upcoming season, and those players are Proper and Finn, who are back for another year, plus Max, Heesang, and Vindame. I'm just gonna say it right off the rip. This team is crazy on paper. For some, it may not seem like much, especially if you don't know much about Heesang and Max, but this is essentially just O2 Blast, aka the best Korean contenders team there is, arguably the best contenders team in general, with Krusty as their head coach. To say many of their prospects and rosters are OWL level would be an understatement. Players who come from this franchise are built different. We've seen it with Proper and Finn, but Heesang and Max are right there with them, I promise you that. They really might be the two most hyped up rookie prospects in all of the 2023 class. With Max, he's just a crazy explosive player with ridiculous potential at the tank role. He's more so known for his off-tank role, but he certainly thrives on it. And by giving him coaching of this caliber, he could easily improve his versatility and continue to be a star. And if the rumors of the Shock getting a main tank very soon is true, then he won't have to worry about playing everything. But then you have his fellow rookie Heesang, who is right up there with him. Heesang, or Heesong, I don't really know how to pronounce it exactly, took the mantle after Proper left for San Francisco last year, and he has continuously made a name for himself. His playmaking ability is otherworldly, and he's kind of a hyperflex just like Proper. A lot of people are maybe concerned their hero pools will overlap, but I would not worry at all. On paper, these these two are dummy dangerous just because they could play literally anything under the sun. I'm telling you, these two could absolutely ravage the league together and be a superstar duo, and the Shock could always sign a dedicated hitscan player later on if they find it necessary. And if that wasn't enough, now they have Vindame at the main support position. And not only was he top tier at the main support role in 2022, but he too is from O2 Blast. I absolutely love Vindame on this team because he is so insanely consistent. And it even showed that he could flex onto Zenyatta, so the Shock could definitely be alright in some sort of double flex support meta. He's just a good, young, well-rounded player that might not make you miss Violet all that much. This core 5 just has ridiculous potential. Proper is already really good on his own, but now you're putting him in very familiar territory. The Shock synergy this year is going to be out of this world. Full Korean comms with guys who have won championships together. I mean, that's just a recipe for success on paper. And the fact that they have Krusty now as their coach to further their discipline and their ability to play this game at a high level makes them super unfair. The Shock are absolutely one of the biggest title contenders out there, and there still could be more to come with their roster. Now, I mentioned it earlier, but it seems a little weird to not have Violet anymore, potentially. But at this point, I think he's probably run his course if he chooses to retire or if the Shock don't want to bring him back. He is still an excellent player, of course, but he just doesn't fit in with the youth movement anymore, and Vindame's a better overall main support. I think that his leadership at this point in time isn't really needed. It's time for the Shock to fully move on to the next era. Violet's going to be missed, but I think it's a necessary step moving forward. And that's about all I've got for you with the San Francisco news, so let's talk about the Vancouver Titans, who made some exciting headlines of their own by announcing Sugarfree as their new starting flex DPS. And first off, let's say it, finally, Sugarfree is getting his crack at OWL. I never thought I'd ever see the day, as this dude has practically been OWL caliber since 2019? But he was just so damn young. The meme for the longest time in this community was, we'd see this guy in 2023, but now it's no longer a laughing matter because it's actually real. He showed such incredible promise back in the day, and even years after he was less motivated to fully compete, the buzz never quite died down with him, as he's just a flex DPS prodigy through and through, and we've been praying that he would stick around the scene, so this is amazing news. There's a lot of speculation on whether he'd even want to play after having to wait this long. With Lenny, there was always a real worry that he would just get bored or unmotivated because he was too young, and how could you really blame the guy? He was already at 14 years old, and there were times where he'd only compete casually just to back up those concerns even more. But when it came down to it, he still desperately wanted to realize that dream, as he knew he still had the talent to do it. And it seems like potential motivation issues and not playing the game super seriously all the time didn't really make him lose much of an edge. Teams still did like what they saw, and if he can get back into it like he did on the Atlanta Academy days, then he could still be a star player at this level. He's got the talent to do it. I really do dig this pickup a lot for the Vancouver Titans. They really needed a good flex DPS to back up Aspire. It was like the one missing link that they truly needed to take that next step. Sugarfree is a young player capable of some very high peaks. We've already seen him go head-to-head with veterans of this game like Yaki, Hisu, and Sparkle during the Gauntlet back in the day, and he more than held his own. A Sugarfree Aspire DPS line might be one of the scariest dark horses in the entire league. Then you add in Crimzo and Punk, and Vancouver have a reasonably good core on paper. Vancouver might be in for a better season than people think. Not necessarily like a playoff contender, but play-ins are certainly a possibility, and they really might sneak up on some people. I really like what they're cooking up over there. They are heading in the right direction. This roster is not only likable, but pretty talented as well. Good work, boys. And now to wrap up your player news for the video, we have the Vegas Eternal. And yes, it still feels really weird saying that, but regardless, they have officially brought back Malthul, Dove, Lucamino, and Rack Attack. Management had already made it clear they wanted to build something around this core during the previous season. We already knew that. The end of last year was only about getting their feet wet, basically. Now it's a matter of learning from those experiences and growing and applying it to some wins. But along with that, Vegas also announced a brand new player filling out the tank role. It's gonna be Vulcan. Yes, that Vulcan that you're thinking of from NYXL that was randomly on the roster for no reason. It's pretty dope that he finally gets a real shot to actually play. The New York situation was just really weird, and this man is pretty talented, you know? A lot of people think that he does deserve some sort of chance to prove himself, so this is good. And generally, Vegas really needed to try something different at tank after what we saw at the end of last year, so it's not the worst thing in the world. Vulcan is primarily known for his off-tank play, and he comes from the same NA Contenders team as many of his teammates that he joins now. This team is essentially Odyssey with Dove. And yes, this even includes their coaching, by the way, as head coach Empress was coaching these guys recently on Odyssey altogether, where they took home a couple of first place finishes. The people within this team know each other very well and are bound to have some excellent chemistry, which is something you desperately need when you definitely have that major underdog status labeled under you. Oh, and side note, Empress is the first woman to be a head coach of an Overwatch League team, so that's pretty cool news that I never actually got a chance to cover. This is a big stepping stone for women in the scene, and I hope that everything progresses even more because of this kind of move. Don't get it twisted though, she's not just here because she's a woman or anything like that. It's not some sort of PR move. She is genuinely a really good coach. She's a highly respected coach within this scene with excellent results both in North America and Europe. She really deserved this type of promotion. I just hope that Vegas can actually improve and not be totally bad, because right now, they certainly look like one of the weaker teams on the surface. For their sake, let's hope that they're at least somewhat competitive. And that's going to do it in terms of Vegas news, so now we can wrap up the video with the Houston Outlaws, who had some sad news for us. Former player, caster, and coach of the Houston Outlaws, Jake, has officially announced his retirement from professional Overwatch. According to Jake himself on his AMA stream, he's ready to start the next chapter in his life. He still wants to be around esports and make some sort of difference, but to a different capacity, and he also just feels ready to settle down. He doesn't feel like that place is in Houston. He wants to be closer to his family and then figure out the next path. No matter what he does, I'm sure that he's gonna do great. He's a very ambitious individual with a lot of passion to grow, but it's definitely worth taking some time to appreciate Jake as he leaves and what he's done for this community. From alexyOWL and representing the United States in the World Cup to casting, playing, and coaching in the Overwatch League, Jake has made a difference in this esports scene in just about any way you can think. He's without a doubt one of the most famous and impactful figures in the game's history, and he's the pride and joy of North American Overwatch. You gotta respect his grind and his loyalty as well. He worked extremely hard to get here, and he strived for constant improvement. He is a brilliant mind through and through. From his Junkrat play, to his voice in the esports community and all of the funny memes, Jake has just had such a huge presence both in and out of this game, and no matter what comes next for the guy, I'm sure he's going to do great. Good luck, Jake. We'll miss you lots. And that's just about going to wrap up everything I have for you. That's going to do it for this episode of the Overwatch League Offseason News Recap. If you enjoyed it, and you want to stay up to date with all things Overwatch League news related, be sure to give this video a like, and subscribe to this channel if you're new. And let me know what you think of all of this stuff down in the comments below, be it the Jake retirement, the Fusion rebranding, the Titans, the Shock, let me know. And until next time, this is ATP, signing out. Peace.